In this room at 12:30, we're going to have Professor Peter Edelman, who's a professor of law at Georgetown, on a domestic topic, Obama and the poor. There are two handouts for that meeting, one written by Peter Edelman. Peter Edelman was the closest policy advisor to Robert Kennedy. He was near Robert Kennedy when he was shot and killed here in Los Angeles in 1968. He went on to be an undersecretary in health and welfare in the Clinton administration. He resigned, one of the few officials in recent modern times to resign on principle over the Clinton welfare plan. He was an advisor to the Obama campaign on urban and poverty policy. He's married to a woman named Marian Wright Edelman, who is the founder of the Children's Lobby, and they are both veterans of the civil rights movement. And he's one of the experts on poor in America, as well as a distinguished professor at Georgetown. So he will be talking to you on Thursday at 12:30. Next week in class, we're going to do Obama and healthcare. We'll send you by email a couple of things to read, but I also want to call your attention to the fact that President Obama has called for a televised bipartisan healthcare summit this Thursday. You don't need to watch it as it happens, but do look on the Friday and the Saturday to the reporting about it and what happens. The president will supposedly be finally coming down concretely in favor of a particular bill or health plan. He's also challenged the Republicans to come up with their plan, and this will all be done live on television, so it'll be particularly interesting and relevant to our discussion on Monday. We'll be showing a PBS documentary about the state of healthcare in the U.S., and we'll have a real live doctor from Kaiser Permanente and a public health specialist who's been involved in Physicians for Responsibility and groups trying to reform the healthcare system to brief us and discuss it with us. Okay. We're very lucky today to have Stephen Kinzer. I can now call him Professor Stephen Kinzer. He's currently teaching at Northwestern, soon to be teaching at Boston University. But more important, I think, than that title is reporter Stephen Kinzer, a star reporter for the New York Times for much of his career. We were discussing today at dinner the difference between a professional historian or writer and a reporter, and we actually like to think that there isn't that much difference between those who are really good at their trade, at reporting reality, and then trying to interpret it. And that's what Stephen's going to do for us tonight on U.S. and Obama policy and relations with the Middle East, broadly defined. He's going to give one of the first public previews of his new book called Restart, which is about American involvement in the Middle East. Did I misspell that? Yeah, Restart here. I could plead jet lag. I was in India last week, had a 4-day Indian wedding. If I had Facebook, I would have a picture of myself in a turban on it, but that's why I don't have Facebook, is so that you don't see a picture of me and add nasty comments in my turban. But the reason I was in India was because of the value of study abroad, and my general lesson to all of you is that study abroad is a really, really good thing. In 1967, my sister went on the experimental international living and lived with a family in New Delhi, India. And because of that, my family and the family that hosted her have been friends ever since. And the young man who got married in New Delhi last week, I carried on my shoulders when he was 7 years old around Disneyland. And then I was present and dancing at his wedding. So you can, isn't that cute? Yes. It was deeply perspiring. All right, with no further ado, I'm going to bring you the world-famous, renowned journalist, Stephen Kinzer. Woo! Bring it on!
Cool. What a thrill to be here. I love coming back to Occidental, and especially the project that all of you are engaged in, trying to re-examine President Obama, try to connect him back to the school where he sort of found out who he was going to be in life is a wonderful thing. You have really an opportunity to do something here that nobody on any other college campus in the world has a chance to do. It's truly a unique opportunity, and the fact that you are being given the chance to shape and frame this project in such a detailed way, I think is going to be something you're always going to remember. There are not very many people that go to college in a place where the President of the United States went to college, and of the few who are in that group, very few of them make concentrated studies of this. So you're even in a smaller group because you're doing this while the process is still going on. It's a wonderful opportunity for all of you, and I envy you, and I'm really happy to be a part of this project here. Tonight we're going to talk about Obama and the world, Obama and foreign policy. Many of you have, I know, traveled abroad. I've got my little Turkish support group here too. I'm so happy to welcome them because those of you that have been to Turkey, I know you get the bug and never really lose it. Turkey's got to be one of the most fascinating countries in the world, and people that have had a chance to go there, I think, always agree with this. We feel like we used to be a little cult, and now we're a big cult, if that's possible, but it's a wonderful one to be in, and they serve great food, too. I believe that President Obama has never really spent concentrated amounts of time reflecting on foreign policy and global security issues. There really wouldn't be any reason for him to have done that. If you think back in his career, he really never had a job that required him to think about the world until he got to the U.S. Senate, and he was just there for a short time before becoming president. So I do think that the president has spent a lot of time reflecting on issues that attracted his attention over the years that have to do with domestic policy. I think he's thought a lot about, for example, energy issues, the environment, labor, education. These are issues that I think Obama has been dealing with and thinking deeply about for a long time. Foreign policy is not in that category. I don't think he's ever really engaged himself with the larger questions of America's role in the world and how it could be changed in a positive way. I think he's a quick study. He's obviously very smart. So he is doing as well as he could be expected to do under the circumstances. But the fact that this is a kind of a new area for him, I think is showing. We're seeing it in the kind of herky-jerky, uncoordinated foreign policy that we've seen over this first year in the Obama administration. I don't sense that there's a grand idea or a global concept underlying the president's foreign policy. I don't think there's any one individual or any handful of individuals who are truly in charge of coming up with that kind of global idea and figuring out what should be the long-term projects for the United States that we could start on now. We start to see this in areas right near our own borders, Latin America. Obama's policy toward Latin America is really still in formation. I don't think many people in Latin America have much idea about what his ideas for Latin America are. We thought, for example, that the policy of trade embargo against Cuba would be pretty high on President Obama's priority list. That policy has been in place for 50 years. It has not done very well in forcing Castro out of power. And the constituency for the embargo policy has dramatically declined. Not only is there a new generation of Cuban Americans that are no longer so angry as their parents, but there's also a huge business community that wants to start negotiations for free trade with Cuba, particularly in the farm states.